My name is Fred Indimuli. Let's kickstart your morning.
Name is Julie Stanley Nyaringita. Kama Fred, over the past 2 days, memo yangu ya the uniform ni kama unaipata.
You're learning fast. Learning very fast. Keep up at it. Naona unaenda mbali.
Jana it was Kenya High. I'm curious which uniform it is today.
This one looks very close to my high school.
Oh, okay.
And you know, I used to be a house captain, so yeah.
Hey. Anyway, karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe. Definitely it is from right now all the way to 10 a.m. Telling you what is happening not only in Kenya but also globally, taking a look at all that. And speaking of which, right here in CBD, taking a look at the traffic this particular morning. Fred, green patches, so that means basically it is good. Taking a look at that particular Thika Road as well, Mombasa Road, and also Ngong Road, the whole southern bypass as well. Spick and span. The weather this particular morning, 17 degrees Celsius. Yesterday said chances of it raining were quite high. I don't know if it where I stay, there was no rain whatsoever. So be very careful before you promise people anything today. Well, today I'll promise you it is going to be sunny and high temperatures as of now, 17 degrees Celsius, all the way to around in the evening. Temperatures are expected to rise. Some probable showers in the evening around 6 p.m. Probably. So all the way, yes, that is the weather right now. Let's take a look at some highlights of the newspapers this morning.
Yes, let's take a look at the dailies this morning, and we start off with the Standard. On the Standard, Ruto's many battles. That's the main headline on the Standard. What else do we have in Kenya? On the Daily Nation, Kenya's troubles with neighbors. This is a common theme.
Oh, yes.
Take a look at the Star, how cops nabbed fleeing hacksaw murder suspect, something different from the Star, as always. Usimkaribie Ruto. Wow. That's the other one.
Right.
On Taifa Leo and on the People Daily, Muturi in line of fire as Ruto fights judges. This is just some of the highlights from our newspapers today. We'll be looking at a lot more later on. But first, let's take a look at the main highlights this morning.
Oh, yes, and the first one, Kenya and Tanzania resolve travel restrictions with allowing Kenya Airways to continue operating passenger flights to Dar es Salaam after an earlier ban that was to take effect later this month over reciprocity dispute.
Kenya's Wildlife Service begins relocation of 21 rare and endangered black rhinos from the Nairobi Park, Olpejeta and Lewa conservancies to a newly established sanctuary at Loisaba in northern Kenya.
And in sports, more football giants find that going tough at the AFCON tournament as Mali beat South Africa and Namibia stunned Tunisia in their opening matches. Right, let's take a look at the news diary this morning, what to expect in subsequent bulletins for the day. First off, the Shakahola massacre, and the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, that is, the DPP has ordered the prosecution of controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie and his co-conspirators linked to the deaths of more than 400 people in Kilifi will be charged with murder, assault, terrorism, among others, as of today. And in matters affordable housing bill, the National Assembly sent to commence the public hearings on the Affordable Housing Bill 2023 this week, and will commence today. The House, through the departmental committees on finance and national planning, and that on housing, urban planning and public works, has lined up public meetings to jointly collect views from the public on the bill across 19 counties for the next 2 weeks. And away from that, the IMF Executive Board is scheduled to meet today to discuss Kenya's 6th reviews under the Extended Fund Facility and Extended Credit Facility, or EFF, and ESF arrangements. The approval of fresh funding will bring the IMF's financial support disbursed under the arrangements to 427 billion Kenyan shillings. And from that, the PS Trade, Alfred Kombudo, together with the Ambassador of Arab Republic of Egypt, while Nasruddin will grace the Africa Free Trade Initiative, Kenya Mission Trade. Today also marks the termination of Emmanuel TV from MultiChoice, following an announcement from MultiChoice Africa for the religious network owned by the late TB Joshua. Effective today, this follows the controversial documentary aired by BBC, a three-part series detailing the alleged atrocities and sexual crimes he committed. That is on the news diary, not only in Kenya, but also across the globe. We'll be updating this in our county diary as we proceed.
All right, let's delve into the dailies now. All right, let's take a look at the Standard this morning. Ruto's many battles. And the Standard, what he has done, it has just listed the number of battles that Ruto is currently engaged in, not just within Kenya's borders, but also beyond Kenya's borders. Beyond Kenya's borders, of course, President William Ruto has been on a warpath, taking on neighbors, institutions, and anyone whom he does not agree with. He has always made his feelings known, much to the chagrin of his victims or opponents. Experts contend that as a symbol of national unity and African statesman, he should pursue dialogue. And faces of some of the leaders that he has had, maybe we could call them disagreements with, beginning locally, of course, with his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. And he's probably borne the brunt of the Ruto administration, or the government pushing for a probe of the last 10 years. Meanwhile, Chief Justice Martha Koome is also listed there as one of those people who has had a spat with the president. President has gone hammer and tongs against the judiciary and claims some judges are corrupt for not ruling in the government's favor. That's just locally. Beyond our borders, we start off with Uganda. The Yoweri Museveni administration filed a case against Kenya after Kenya declined to issue Uganda National Oil Corporation with a license to operate as a local oil marketer. That is one. DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, DRC's president, has expressed his displeasure with the government after rebels called the press in Nairobi to threaten his government. Elsewhere, Tanzania, the latest one, as part of our airlines, has thrown the relationship between Nairobi and Dar es Salaam into disarray. That has since been resolved, but this is only months after President Samia Suluhu Hassan is said to have snubbed or been snubbed by the government while on a peace mission in Kenya. Sudan. And we have a photo there of Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. In April last year, efforts by Dr. Ruto to lead the Sudanese peace efforts were thwarted after the Sudan Armed Forces and al-Burhan, one of the warring factions, questioned his neutrality on the matter. Burhan said Ruto was an old friend of his rival, Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, Burhan's former deputy and now leader of the rival group, Rapid Support Forces. This is a very nice picture of the kind of situation that President William Ruto faces, both within Kenya's borders and across the borders. It has been extensively covered on page 2. The only other highlights that have found space on the front page of the Standard are on the top strip. News about the Shakahola cult, Mackenzie to face murder charges. In business, Union Act by demands on teachers. And in sports, surprises galore in AFCON. Let's flip the paper and look at more stories from the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations tournament. Song admits his indomitable Lions were playing off-key. Cameroon came off from behind to draw with 10-man Guinea. And these are just the games from Monday's results. Remember, we've given you results from yesterday's games. And if we could go back to them, yes, Mali stand South Africa 2-0. Elsewhere, Namibia stand Tunisia 1-0. It's only Burkina Faso that managed a 1-0 win against Mauritania. So yes, giants, or rather hitherto football giants, are finding the going quite rough at the AFCON.
Our brothers in Tanzania are playing today.
Oh yeah, the first East African, or rather the only East African team.
So
no, but DR Congo are also playing today against Zambia. Now, these are teams, this is going to be a very interesting game. DRC versus Zambia. Those are games you rarely get to see.
Oh, yes. Because, I mean, for Taifa Stars, Tanzania itself really prides itself with its football and its national team, so we're curious to see how they're going to be playing. Taking a look at tomorrow, if it's going to be a draw, watachapwa or Kitawaramba. Oh, yes.
Let's just support them. Ruto is already having enough trouble with everyone. With DRC, with Tanzania, so we'll be supporting them and try and break the ice. And
speaking of Ruto having many troubles with the neighbors, that is a top story on Daily Nation. A very similar headline on the Standard. And so what the Daily Nation has done, it hasn't really, given the specifics, but it has gone now for the specific countries, really. Talking about Kenya's troubles with neighbors. Regional ties, latest row with Dar es Salaam resolved within 2 days. And diplomacy, President William Ruto's government has been on a collision course with its East African neighbors on several occasions since assuming office in August 2022. Some of his administration's decision on trade and politics seem to have rubbed them the wrong way. That is on page 6. And they ask, what's the beef really here? They focus on DRC Congo, miffed by the activities of an opposition figure in Nairobi. DRC recalled its ambassador to Kenya in Rwanda in a diplomatic goof. Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen called out the Rwandan leader, that is President Paul Kagame, where he described his leadership as an autocracy. In Uganda, we're taking a look at that also on the Standard. In Sudan, Khartoum recalled its ambassador to Kenya in protest of the official reception given to Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. In Somalia, the UN's top court has ruled largely in favor of Somalia in its long-running dispute with Kenya over the maritime clash over judiciary's call for dialogue. More on that is on page 4, with both of them bashing the president on the same, warning. Azimio leader has warned CJ Kome against holding talks with Ruto over his constant attacks on the court. You can read that there. On the bottom scroll, it is a tribute for the NIBS founder, Lizzie Wanyoike. The fear of the village and its debilitating poverty set her for greatness. That is on page 10. Matters crime. Man arrested at JKIA over brutal killing of woman at a city estate. And in matters US polls, was happening, I believe, yesterday. The whole primaries for the Republican Party. Big win in Iowa moves Trump closer to a Joe Biden rematch. And Trump romps to a landslide victory in Iowa's caucuses, the first vote in the U.S. presidential race. So the U.S. has begun its countdown all the way to November, and they'll hold. This year, by the way, has actually quite a number of elections globally. Even South Africa will be holding the elections, and there are quite a number of countries even in Africa itself.
Quite a busy year. Let's take a look at what's headlining on Taifa Leo this morning. Usimkaribie Ruto. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Vuta ni kuvute, kinara wa Azimio asema mazungumzo yoyote wakati huu ambapo kesi muhimu dhidi ya serikali zinaendelea kotini yanaweza kuathiri maamuzi. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Raila aonya Kome dhidi ya kukutana na rais ili kumaliza uhasama uliopo baina ya serikali na mahakama. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Pale chini kwenye ukurasa wa mbele huo, Trump ashinda mchujo Iowa. Kwingineko, soko la asali hata majula patikana. Masuala ya spoti, Tanzania tayari kuliza Morocco. Masuala ya AFCON. Pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, Mackenzie kushtakiwa kwa ugaidi, upande wa mashtaka wataja madai hatari dhidi ya washukiwa. Habari zaidi, Mudavadi sasa kipenzi chake rais. Hatua ya kuongezwa majukumu ya mkweza hadhi. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 10 wa Taifa Leo. Lakini habari kuu, usimkaribie Ruto.
Usimkaribie Ruto, maneno yake yule pale Raila. Let's talk money matters now on the Business Daily. Railways tops list of state firms bleeding taxpayer billions. And other stories here on the left strip. Universities employee arrears rise to 45 billion Kenyan shillings. on the Life Pull-Out magazine there, overlanding from, can't really see that there, to Cape Town. That is on the Life Pull-Out magazine, matters art there. And matters tickers there.
You can just take a look
the Treasury
at the physical copy, much easier.
On the right, that particular ticker there, it was overlanding from Nairobi to Cape Town. And that ticker there, Treasury to eat bank's lunch with a single account. Economy, Tanzania drops ban on Kenya Airways flight after dialogue. And it matters markets, Saudi cuts wages for Kenyan domestic workers by 80,000 Kenyan shillings. Wow. Even as the whole push for exporting our labor intensifies by the Kenya Kwanza government, this is what the workers will be facing.
All right. Interesting. Another mention of the spot between Kenya and its neighbors is on page 1 of People Daily. It's not the big headline, but it has been given quite some prominence on the top strip of the People Daily. Kenya on edge of isolation in spite of tiffs with neighbors. And we have images of President William Ruto and other regional leaders, President Kagame of Rwanda, Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania, Tshisekedi of DRC, President Sheikh of Somalia, and Museveni of Uganda. And yes, seeing this theme across three major dailies in Kenya, it means it's the biggest discussion today.
Oh, yes. And it seems as if it was an editorial arrangement across board.
Sometimes they do that, but this time around, I think it's just time to talk about.
Right.
Yet the big headline on the front page of the People Daily is Muturi in line of fire as Ruto fights judges, matters executive vis-a-vis the judiciary. Attorney General sits in the Judicial Service Commission, the judiciary's top organ that has been at loggerheads with his boss, with questions being raised whether he supports a scathing statements by the executive. Now, this story has extensively been covered on pages 5, 6, and 7 of the People Daily, meaning it's another big discussion point. And that's the front page of the People Daily.
Right, let's take a look at the Star this morning. How cops nabbed a fleeing Haxo murder suspect, and movements traced using footage from CCTV surveillance, cameras on buildings on the route it's thought he took from the scene. But away from that, a story that hasn't been reflected by other dailies, the heaved and pulled and finally translocated 3 rhinos. Movement by the black rhinos by the Kenya Wildlife Service. Then they have the pictorials right there. Other stories on the left scroll, quite a number of headlines. Ruto team and governors clash over 272 billion Kenyan shillings. And the tribute for the late Lizzie Wanyoike, founder of NIBS, from village girl to top educator and investor. And from that, Raila warns CJ as Ruto welcomes judiciary talks. On the top scroll, what was happening yesterday at the Wiper headquarters, Wiper party leader Kalonzo Musyoka sets stage for epic 2027 battle with President Ruto, and they call it laying the ground. That is the Star this morning, and I believe that's our cue to vuka border.
Okay, let's cross the border and start off in Uganda. And in Uganda, we kick off with the Daily Monitor. On the Daily Monitor, while list of election official was altered, it is understood from sources that the suggestion that Ms. Etonu's elevation was backed by same influential figures in government upset some officials in parliament who reportedly indicated their reservations about the appointee to the president. Matters to do with the election officials. Well, remember in Kenya we still don't have the IEBC. It's more or less a similar debate, especially when it comes to the selection of those to sit in such bodies. Matters to do with the NAM summit, the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, which is ongoing in Uganda. Also making it to the front page, NAM states in a deadlock over genocide by Israel, and there's a picture there on the front page of some of those attending that summit. That's a big headline, and these are just some of the stories of interest in Uganda. Before we leave Uganda, let me take a look at the other paper, and that is New Vision. At least New Vision has gone with some politics.
Oh, yes.
Bobi Wine, Besigye forge alliance. This is interesting.
Oh, yes.
If at all these two opposition leaders can actually come together in Uganda. Bobi Wine, Besigye forging alliance. But still, NAM Business Summit opening, that's still a big talking point in Uganda, Kampala City, and a photo there of some of those attending the non-aligned movement summit in Kampala, Uganda.
Right, from Uganda, let me take you to Rwanda and the New Times. The top story, government to lift 300,000 families out of poverty in 2 years. More is on page 3. They say Karongi district has about 36,000 households in need of assistance of to graduate out of poverty. But away from that, Kagame Blinken discuss regional security. There's the president there of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, and the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. Those are a number of stories there that do form the top stories in Rwanda.
All right. We take a look at the dailies in Tanzania now. We start off with the Mwananchi. And yes, there's a mention of that Kenya-Tanzania dispute on the very top strip, even before we take a look at the main headline. Kenya yakubali yaishe, yaondoa vikwazo ATCL. Pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi, juu zaidi, masuala ya uhasama uliopo kati ya Kenya na Tanzania, umepewa kipaumbele pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, kashfa mitihani ya uuguzi ya vuja. Kwingineko, kizungumkuti bei ya sukari ikipaa magendo yaliza watu. Hizi ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kule Tanzania.
Pale katika gazeti la Mwanahabari, kishindo sekta ya utalii. Vile vile wameangazia taarifa ya Kenya na Tanzania. Pale chini, gazeti la Mwanahabari, Kenya wakubali yaishe waondoa vikwazo ATCL. Katika gazeti la Daily News, Nchimbi sets the tone and pledges transparency, accountability. Taking a look at if there's any other headline from, there has to be the Citizen.
Oh yes, there's the Citizen.
There's the Citizen.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Yes, experts do this to address joblessness among youth. That's a big headline on the Citizen today. But also, if you could just scroll down, there's also a mention of the Kenya-Tanzania dispute, also on the front page of the Citizen. And they say Tanzania lifts ban on KQ flights after Kenya climbed down. And that's the issue there, because kwingineko anasema Kenya yakubali yaishi.
Yes.
So either way, it's Kenya that had to go down. As far as all the dailies in Tanzania are concerned,
yes. Kenya had to
back down.
Yes, and
so
Kenya had to be the big, person and just say fine.
That is your assessment. No big person. Kenya had to climb down. Kenya had to be the smaller person for this.
Oh yes, I was actually the smaller person actually. Yes.
Tanzania lifts ban on KQ flights after Kenya climbed down. Okay, Kenya yakubali yaishe.
Right, that is our cue to take a look at the dailies this morning. And on page 17 of the Daily Nation, actually on the same story, Daily Nation is quite an interesting one here. They have the Kenya Airways and two gentlemen.
What has happened there is that
she's plucked the wings.
She's President Semestu has actually plucked the wings from Kenya Airways, and now we have the ministers from Kenya, Musalia Mudavadi and Kipchumba Murkomen, running after her and saying, "Okay, kubali yaishe."
Wow.
I tell you, so why were we getting into this stiff in the first place? If at all we've been so quick to back down.
So probably now the Suluhu has returned the wings that were plucked out.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at page 12 of the Standard. It has to do with the whole Mount Kenya kingpinship. And there are two shoes there and two gentlemen. A gentleman, caricature that looks like Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua inside the shoe, Mount Kenya region. Another gentleman there, Interestingly, wearing shorts, some green shorts and a yellow T-shirt, and another shoe written Kingpin. Both shoes, country, they're quite big and huge shoes to fill.
And that in itself says a lot, that the shoe that even these gentlemen are trying to fill are too big for them. But they are struggling, each one to take one. Even the one they cannot fit in.
And speaking of shoes to fit, on page 10 of the People Daily, should I or not? Should I or not? That is a question that this gentleman there, caricature that looks like Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, seated on a donkey, and in front of it, carrots.
Those carrots are being dangled by, look at the colors on the hands that are dangling the carrots.
Oh, yes.
One of them has a green and yellow of a very well-known party in Kenya. That's a ruling party. And the other one has the orange and blue of
the opposition.
The mix of the Azimio. We have Wiper and ODM.
Oh, yes.
So both dangling the carrot and, yes, should I?
Interesting. He's wearing a yellow shirt there. Reminds me of the whole watermelon conversation back in the day. Oh, yeah.
It's not a conversation he would be willing to go back to. He's never been happy about that kind of, him being compared to that fruit.
Right.
I don't want to be the one to take us back to that conversation. But those are the cartoons this morning. Interesting. I will be having some of these discussions with my panelists later on after the break. Today we have 3 members of county assemblies. Robert Alai, MCA Kileleshwa, that's the county of Nairobi. Kiruga Dhuku, MCA Shinga Ward, is also the chairperson UDA-MCA's caucus, and Kiruga Dhuku is from the Nyeri County. And John Kibaya Ngoge, MCA Gatanga Ward, Chair Finance and Economic Planning. He's from Murang'a County, so also issues to do with Mount Kenya politics and the shoes that we just seen on the cartoon on the Standard could come up. So do stand by for this. Remember, you can also be part of the conversation on our social media pages, on X at TV47 News, and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. Also at 8 a.m., another conversation coming up.
Oh, yes. We're having, the whole B2B kind of conversation, a whole technical conversation on the same, but then just to simplify it and understand what it really means for you. We'll be telling you all that. There's a whole conference coming up. I definitely want to stick around for that. 2047 is our SMS number. I'm usually Stanley Nyerungita.
My name is Fred Indemoli. Keep it here. Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. We now want to take a look at the state of the nation, the big headlines today on the front page of the Standard. Ruto's many battles, both locally and beyond the borders. That's the front page of the Standard. On the front page of the People of the Daily Nation, Kenya's troubles with neighbors. This one has focused mainly on the troubles, cross-border troubles. Meanwhile, this same story also features on the front page of the People Daily. Kenya on edge of isolation in spate of tiffs with neighbors. That is on the front page as well. So that is definitely the biggest talking point, and we'll kick off with that with my panelists. Allow me to introduce. This morning, on my immediate right, Kiroga Dhuku, MCA Shinga Ward, Nyeri County, is also the chairperson, UDA MCA's caucus. Karibu sana, Happy New Year, karibu sana. It's only 17th of January, so we'll be excused and forgiven for still wishing people Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
It's good to have you in studio. Robert Alai, MCA Kileleshwa Ward, Nairobi County, karibu sana, Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you so much, Happy New Year.
So let's start off with this discussion about the kind of troubles that Kenya is having with neighbors, both regionally and also locally, because what has happened is that the nation and the People Daily are talking about the kind of problems we're having in as far as diplomatic relations and foreign relations are concerned. They paint a picture and they list the kind of troubles that we are having. With the DR Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, Somalia, even Sudan. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. On the People Daily, similar thing. Kenya on edge of isolation in spate of tiffs with neighbors. And we have images of the presidents who have issues with Kenya. Kagame of Rwanda, Suluhu Hassan Tanzania, Tshisekedi DRC, Sheikh of Somalia, and Museveni of Uganda. Now, the Standard has gone even further and talked about Ruto's troubles both beyond our borders and within Kenya, by including former President Uhuru Kenyatta in that list, and CJ Martha Koome with the latest tiff, the judiciary. But focusing on issues of foreign relations, if we could start from there. Bonalai, so many questions have been asked from the day President William Ruto was sworn in, and there was already an issue raised about the very first gaffe that his government was engaged in, and that was on Twitter. It was a diplomatic gaffe when someone in his team tweeted about Western Sahara. On the very first day that he was sworn in, that tweet was later deleted. Now, over the past year, it could either be an issue about Kenyans being more sensitive about our relationship with our neighbors, or a lot of things are happening. This time round, everything is on the front page. What would you say? What is your assessment of Kenya's or this administration handling of foreign relations?
Thank you, Fred. Straight away, I don't think that Kenya Kwanza understand what it really means to govern a country. And you see, the problem with Kenya Kwanza is not only limited to the neighbors or the foreigners they're having problems with. Apart from the Americans and the British, I don't think that Kenya Kwanza is even having any good relationship with the elders, elder statesmen in this country. You can see the differences with former President Uhuru, which I think that the current president should have been very magnanimous and reach out to the former president. There are very many ways of contacting him and go and sit with him. You cannot wish away or underrate the former president. Even the move to go and raid his son's compound needed authority of the president, a sitting president, to do that. If you see what is happening with the neighbors, it means that these people really underrate what the presidency is, or they don't understand what it means. You saw not only with the Western Sahara, but at one time they were ordering the rebels or in Southern Sudan. At some point they were even ordering rebels in West Africa. They're telling them no more coups. There are things you cannot pronounce yourselves on, because if the president pronounces himself, it's like the country pronounces itself. We've made a lot of mistakes. Even the issue of the fifth freedom or the flights. The fifth freedom is the ICAO really guarantees what you can allow and what you cannot deny somebody to fly your country. You cannot deny somebody to come and pick cargo and go. These things don't need much procedures. But Kenya Kwanza, I think because they don't understand what it means, what every move they make means for this country, then they just make them haphazardly. I wish that President Ruto appointed people who are competent enough, because the challenge with dealing with the current, because I don't think that the problems will go away. Because I think the first qualification for you to get appointed in the Kenya Kwanza cabinet was that you must not be smart.
But we have very senior people in that cabinet. Even the person in charge of the foreign affairs docket right now, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, is someone who has a lot of experience in these issues.
Exactly.
But for us to see this kind of headline on 3 of Kenya's top dailies, on the Standard, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily, it definitely means there's a problem somewhere. Where is the problem?
Okay, friend. Definitely, you wouldn't expect my brother Ali to say anything positive about our government. So I wouldn't expect him to say anything positive. But the thing is this, friend. You know, generally and basically, life is all about battles. You know, as an individual, you know, as a country, you are faced with various challenges. And unlike what my brother here is saying, I would say we have started off well as a government. You realize some of these wars are about, you know, trade. They are not diplomatic tiffs per se. These are disagreements about trade, like the one we had with Tanzania. And, you know, at times some officials get excited, but it was resolved actually within 2 days. You know, like you say, our Foreign Affairs Minister, who is also the Prime Cabinet Secretary, he was able to resolve that matter even before it could get to the presidential level. So, and again, what my brother here is saying, that I don't know, there is this pronouncement here from the presidency, there is this pronouncement. You know, Kenya has to pronounce itself on various matters. And for example, our president have been urging, you know, like the one he was saying that he ordered which rebel outfit, I don't know which. What our president said is that those people who are suffering because of these conflicts are the ordinary one in those countries. So the president was very right to call for speedy resolution of the conflict there. And you know, Kenya traditionally is a country that is always involved in resolving those matters in, you know, in Africa, in the world, you see. And because Honorable Ali has touched on the former president. Honorable Ali. He has touched, you know, he's an honorable member of the County Assembly of Nairobi. He has touched on the relationship between the current government, or the, you know, the presidency and the former president. And I see, you know, upon putting the Bible down, the first person the current president allocated diplomatic duties to was the former president. So, you know, I is saying this because he knows the former president was supporting their side, but the current government has anything, you know, against the former president. Okay. It's only that when they feel things are not good here and there, you know, for example, friend, if I do something bad outside the gate, and I land here, then TV47 cannot say it is the one being targeted. No, it's the person who has done something bad outside there, okay, and have learned to shield, you know, to take shield here.
And I want us to focus, I know the Standard has included the former president and even the CJ on this list of the people who are having trouble with the president. But because those are separate discussions, I want us for now to focus on the kind of diplomatic and foreign relations issues that Kenya faces currently. And allow me to bring in Bwana John Kibaya Nguge into this conversation. MCA Gitanga Ward is also the Chair of Finance and Economic Planning Committee in that assembly of Muranga. Karibu sana to TV47. You found us discussing the main headlines. Kenya's troubles with neighbors, Ruto's many battles. It is also featuring on the front page of the People Daily. Kenya on edge of isolation in spate of tiffs with neighbors. And we are saying that, yes, Kenya has for long, as Bwana Dhuku rightly put it, been involved in a lot of this foreign relations, mediation, and other such efforts. But this time round, we are seeing that Kenya is becoming more and more isolated. Sudan says it does not need Kenya to be part of that mediation. In as far as their case is concerned, Sudan went ahead and recalled its ambassador to Kenya. Elsewhere, DRC did the same because some rebels came to Kenya and held a press conference here in Nairobi. I remember even when the Israel and this Gaza issue first came up, and the Kenyan government was very quick to issue a statement in support of Israel, then later on was forced to withdraw that statement. Some of these things could be said to be gaffes, that probably that was not the main intention. It would appear like some sort of inexperience in handling of foreign relations. Do you think that is the issue?
Thank you, Bwana Indimuli, and my fellow panelists, and TV47 for inviting me for this discussion today. I think there are so many moving cogs in what we are seeing right now in our country. And on the foreign relation part, I think there is a lot of positioning by other countries to remove Kenya from its position. If you look at our current, very current history, we have been having issues, governance issues, where a president and a deputy president were not reading from the same script, and some saw a gap that they could utilize to be relevant in the affairs of our region. Needless to say, the person that has been we have been using as an envoy to solve some of these issues in our neck of the wood was the former president.
Are you saying that's a problem?
Yeah, that is a problem.
Uhuru Kenyatta is a problem?
He is a problem.
He's a cause of all these troubles?
He is a problem.
When the government issued a statement about Israel, Uhuru Kenyatta was not involved in that?
But you see, when we're talking about the regional problems that we're having, I think he has a hand on it. When we are talking about the Israeli issue, I think that was a knee-jerk reaction to something that...
And let's examine that that assertion that Uhuru Kenyatta is the one causing all these problems in our life first, before we even move to any other.
You know, and this is why I say that Kenya Kwanza really don't understand what it means to govern. Because if you can, a former president, even if he was from a different party than us, is a former president. And you know, he has been, these people are just currently being presidents. For somebody to be in presidency for the 10 years, you can't underrate him. So the best thing for Kenya Kwanza first is to look within themselves, that what is really wrong with them? Are they competent enough to run a country as a country? Are they competent enough to manage this country? When you see the gaps, the foreign affairs especially, you see even the tiff between Korir Sing'oei, the PS, the foreign affairs docket, the tiff between him and the Senate Speaker over the Somaliland issue. I think they should have resolved it much differently. If you see everything happening with Sudan, meeting one side today, the next time meeting, what is the Kenyan interest? Who should we align to in the Sudan and Southern Sudan? Who should we align to in... even Museveni, who was known to be a very good friend of President Ruto, cannot see President Ruto now. He's not...
No.
He has taken... for a country to take a move to take another country to court, it is not a small thing.
It means they've not been able to resolve the issue.
It means they cannot even speak. You know, a country to sue another country, it is not like me suing my honorable members, fellow honorable members here. You know, a country to sue another country, international courts, is a different thing.
Because my understanding is that Uhuru Kenyatta is only involved in the DRC issue. We're having issues across board.
DRC, they have been chased. Kenya Kwanza, Kenyan troops were chased away.
And I'm wondering where the former president comes in.
In Dimori, I can tell you for free that our president is a darling of.
It doesn't appear so.
It is.
During Kenya's 60th Independence Day celebrations, most of these regional leaders that are still on the front page, because this is not a coincidence.
Yeah, but they don't normally come.
All these faces that are on the front page.
No,
I think you are reading too much.
Let me give you a comparison.
Yes.
Because early this year, a similar celebration for Zanzibar was held. 60 years of independence for Zanzibar. All these leaders were present.
All of them, yeah.
How come they were not present in Kenya's 60th Independence Day celebration?
It depends. You know, it depends. Were they invited in the first place?
So Kenya did not feel the need to invite.
Of course.
Neighbors?
You know, yeah, you know, friend. And I'm telling you here, and I'll say this through this program. You don't expect my brother Robert Arai to say anything positive about. No, you see, I just want to put this one very clear, because you know he keeps repeating the Kenya Kwanza government doesn't know how to lead, but it does.
Do you agree with Bwana Ngugi that it is Uhuru Kenyatta that is causing all this trouble?
You know, that's his opinion. I would say there are those areas I may differ strongly with the former president, but the thing is this, you know, Kenya, as my brother says, is the envy of many nations because it plays a very crucial role in the region and even in Africa.
But Atuku, this kind of envy has existed even before. It is not the first time that Kenya is doing better than the neighbors.
Yeah, but
how come this time around is when we're experiencing more cases of disagreements with our neighbors than ever before?
No, and I wish to repeat here, friend. You know, most of these cases, they are trade fights because you know, like Uganda, and it's something very normal. If countries disagree, instead of just squabbling, you know, and there are those courts that deal with trade disputes, there is nothing wrong in Uganda going there and saying they would like to have the disputes resolved there. But as it is, I want to agree with my friend Kivaya. Most of these problems are not per se President Uhuru's problems, but the former regimes or the former Jubilee's problems. We have inherited even problems.
I fail to see the connection about the former administration and the kind of troubles facing Kenya right now. Some of the issues raised are issues that have occurred over the past 1 year, where the former administration was not in any way involved in. The dispute in Sudan, that is something recent. The issues in DRC, those are also some very recent. The dispute
but who is a broker?
oil.
Who is a power broker?
Yeah, they were being hosted by the former president, by the way.
It's a
Those DRC guys you keep, yeah.
He has a hand in it. What I'm saying is that I know, other than the foreign relation issues that we're having, there is the issue of jostling for trade, political positioning for trade. And you can see it very clearly. Tanzania, during Magufuli's time, was a bit of a very closed country. But now there was a change in regime, and the madam that is running that country seems to be a darling of many. And she seems to think that they can push Kenya aside. You had the discussion the other day about the number of ships that in their shores versus the number of ships that are in our shores. And I can attest to you that knowing something about what happens in that space, that the reason why they have so many ships in the dock is because they take too much time clearing those ships. In Kenya, it's now trade +1. A ship is gone. So we have more efficient, as a port, we are more efficient than them. But the gist of the conversation that we're having stems from the previous regime. They invited this. They provided cracks for other countries to think that they can take Kenyan's position. And they were very aggressive about it.
What actions in particular do you think that were taken by the former administration that may have led to some of this?
You see, when a country is squabbling, and especially when the top echelon is squabbling, you invite so many people around the issues that you're having. And the recent election that we had, the 2022 elections, you see what happened. There was a court case, there was squabbles, Akina Alai were out there throwing stones. It brought about a kind of, destabilized our country and our economy. And you see, other people want to position themselves where we are. So what a better time to start maneuvering, doing maneuvers to overtake us. And that is what is happening all around. You can see like this G2G for the fuel. Uganda has been buying fuel from our people here. What they have always known that they could do that by themselves. Why did they do it 10 years ago? Why did they do it 2 years ago?
Yet we've seen President William Ruto engage in a lot of international travel, both regionally and beyond.
Yeah.
And in that, one may feel that whatever issues had existed before, if at all any had, that kind of shuttle diplomacy would have resolved them.
Yes,
and I wonder why now it would appear that matters are worsening instead of getting better. Bonala.
You know, I think that, you know, like I've repeated, that they're just incompetent. You remember the first travel President Ruto made? President Ruto made one very famous trip to Uganda. Immediately he was sworn in. And this trip raised eyebrows within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because, you know, for a president to visit another country, as a president, you need a lot of briefing. You need also to be handled differently because you are now president. You're not the deputy president like before or just a cabinet minister. And the president seemed to have gone there without briefing on protocol, without proper briefing on what he should do or not do as now the chief executive officer of the country. So I believe that, you know, even these travels are not going to help the country much because the president is either trying to resolve things he doesn't understand. He's not getting proper briefing. He's trying to believe he's the only person who should be smart. I wish, you know, I want President Ruto to succeed because I'm Kenyan. I don't have country B where if things go wrong here, then I'll go to. I want him to succeed. But the cabinet itself, if President Ruto was to succeed, he has to properly overhaul the cabinet, starting from the deputy president going down.
Should we talk about, because now we're talking about foreign relations,
Yes.
Is that also an indictment on the person in charge of that docket?
No, I think that, you know, you remember President Ruto made some changes.
Yes.
Removed, you know, former Governor Alfred Mutua and now brought in Musalia Mudavadi, which I think are very experienced ants in that regard. And you have seen how he has resolved the issue with Tanzania over the fifth freedom, you know, on flights. And I think that Musalia Mudavadi has brought some maturity in that. But I wish that in transport we had the same. Because foreign affairs alone cannot work. Foreign affairs is like ICT. It is a support sector. So it supports other, because Kenya is going to try sign a trade agreement with country B. So you not only need the foreign affairs minister, but you also need a very experienced trade minister. You also need a cooperative minister who can understand these things. When you're doing intergovernment, you know, when you're doing roads which cut across countries, like the LAPSSET, I think Ethiopia is even having the tiff with Somalia because they believe that LAPSSET is dead. The person who is there is not competent enough to understand that, you know, LAPSSET needs to be given priority.
And President Ruto himself has said that he is Kenya's chief diplomat.
Exactly.
And he has had 14 months. If at all there were serious issues, as Bwana Ngugi says, that probably the previous administrations had created, as he claims, 14 months for Kenya's chief diplomat and the kind of travel he has done should be enough to actually resolve some of these problems. But we are seeing the situation worsening now that he appears to be very much isolated.
No, friend, you know, for one, let me tell my brother Alai here. President William Ruto doesn't want to be seen as smart. He's basically smart. You see, you know, he's good in what he does. It's good that both you and I are agreeing. You know, it is not that it's only Kenya that is cooperating with its neighboring countries. Ethiopia and Somalia, they have their school bus, Tanzania and Malawi. These are normal. You know, we don't have to blow them out of proportion. Again, Fred, as you say, the president, it's not just that he has said, even the former presidents, that is it. They are the chief diplomats. And anyway, around the world, the president is the chief diplomat of that country. And friend, the president is on record having said, these are not leisure trips that he has been making. And you can see he has been able to secure a lot of job opportunities out there. Kenya, especially on matters climate change, it has no peer in Africa. We are shoulders high above every other country in Africa. In fact, in the world, Kenya now is a renowned country in matters. In
that
matters,
is one cause of the envy.
In matters climate change. So, friend, and you see,
So the issue is the climate change, Kenya's approach to climate action and climate change, generating envy among our neighbors.
Not only that, the president, is fighting for Kenyans' peace, trade, etc. Now, when one thing my brother Robert here needs to know, it's not for them to decide for Kenya Kwanza, to decide for the president who works or don't work in this government. Okay. The decision on who works, the prerogative lies with the president.
Fair enough.
He knows what he expects from his cabinet members. That's it.
Fair enough. And time for us to take a break. And when we come back, we'll move on to another discussion. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. You can be part of this conversation on our social media pages. Please do that. Meanwhile, let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. busy trying to post this tweet about our conversation online. And yes, you can be part of this conversation, especially on X at TV47 News, and tag me as well at Fred Indimuli at Nyaringita _ All right, and there it goes, the tweet is out. Be part of this conversation. I am still in studio with the Kiruga Dhuku, MCA Shinga Ward, Robert Alai, MCA Kileleshwa, and John Kibaya Nguge, MCA Gitanga Ward, representing Nyeri County, Nairobi County, and Murang'a County on this panel. We've been looking at Kenya's foreign relations issues that feature on the front pages of major dailies today. The other story given prominence on the front pages has to do with matters within Kenya. Interestingly, it's also been captured in the main story about Ruto's many battles. Because CJ Martha Koome has been listed as one of those people that the president is having an issue with. That's a standard. On the Daily Nation, Ruto-Raila clash over judiciary's call for dialogue. That's the one there. And if I may look at any other dailies that have a similar headline, we had the People Daily, and on the People Daily, it chose to go with the AG, what the Attorney General's role in this kind of dispute is. Yes, just a moment so that I get it right. Muturi in line of fire as Ruto fights judges. And the AG is a member of the Judicial Service Commission that has already come out and addressed this matter. And the question is, does the AG support the path chosen by the executive in fighting the judiciary? The Star does not have any of this. Raila wants CJ as Ruto welcomes judiciary talks. Also features on the front page. Let's start with you, Bwana Kibaya, because this issue has gone on for quite a while now, and many people would have expected that this would be resolved in a different way. The JSC itself has said that there are paths or routes for seeking redress against any judicial officer. And indeed, we've seen many who've been taken to the JSC with complaints, and evidence is presented, and that matter is dispensed with. The Deputy President himself has said that he has a matter that would require the JSC's intervention, and he says he'll present the evidence to that commission. And many are wondering, why is the president feeling that that route cannot help him resolve his issues with the judiciary? Why is he looking for dialogue with the CJ?
Indimuri, you must understand that the president is a politician. The president went to the whole country, campaigned under a party, UDA party. The UDA party has a manifesto. When we went around the country seeking for votes, we told people what we will do for them. And one of the flagship projects in that manifesto was a housing project and the universal health coverage. Now, we have to be cognizant of the fact that political terms have timelines. We only have 5 years to fulfill our manifesto. And we will allow the shenanigans that we are seeing in the judiciary to happen. It means that what we campaigned on, the contract with the people of Kenya, will not be fulfilled. So the president has to make noise, because now we're in the second year. And there is somebody that wants to step on his toes in regards to one of his most important projects. Now, we should have a conversation in this country in terms of the independence of the three branches of government, be it the executive, judiciary, and the legislature. I think they should be independent, but I think they should be collaborative. And that is the reason why in JSC you have the Attorney General to stand in for the government. So it means that the judiciary cannot act by itself. They are not sacrosanct.
Is the JSC a viable route for the president to actually prosecute some of these issues he says he has with the judiciary?
But you see, the president is the person that unites the whole country. And one of the things that should happen is that we should feel that whatever the president campaigned on is also live to the judiciary, because that is a contract with the people of Kenya, and the people of Kenya are supreme.
His intentions may be good and his plans may be positive, but if at all at any point you defy any provision of the Constitution, that should be challenged in the courts of law. That is exactly what people...
I don't think that is what the problem is, the president intends to do. I think the president wants to bring this issue to the fore, and then we can have a discussion about it. Just like the other day, Mother Koome came out and said, I'm ready to have a discussion with the president.
And that is a question I'm asking because when Allah, even Raila Odinga has warned about the possibility of dialogue between the judiciary and the executive. We've seen what has happened with the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah.
And many may say that part of the problem even facing the executive and part of its plans is that Parliament to a huge extent has already been compromised, and they are no longer performing their roles at 100%. And if at all they had done their job well, probably even some of these plans by the government would not be encountering the kind of legal hurdles they are right now.
Yeah, I believe that, President Ruto is hell-bent on being an imperial president, and he has eliminated the role of parliament in many of these oversight, moves. You remember the privatization bill where he removed the parliament's capability to check whether they are going to sell the state parastatals or not. So now parliament has no role completely. And now the biggest hindrance has been the judiciary, because the judiciary has not only been very robust, independent, and so on, but I don't believe that his assertions that the judiciary is corrupt is really true. Because if they were, he was sitting in the National Security Council. He was the deputy president, but immediately took power. He actually appointed judges who President Uhuru said were corrupt. If he was serious about fighting corruption, even me, I believe some judges are corrupt, but I have not reached a point where I can go in public and start attacking judges, even if they rule against me. So for the president to get onto the platforms where he is now publicly attacking judges without any evidence presented to the Judicial Service Commission, I believe that the president is just interested in ruling unchecked. And it's very dangerous for this country. And I wish that, the people are going to cry first. When you're in the position, especially us who have stayed in the position since independence, I can tell you for a fact that we are very ready, and we really enjoy this platform. But the people who are going to cry are the people who are his partners in this government. Because this soon, when he finishes with everybody, he's going to go for the people who are very close to him. And I wish that they see through this. There is nobody. When you are making law for a country, make it. They always rule. The rule is make it to favor your worst opponent. But what they are doing now, that they are thinking that the judiciary is going to be only favoring them. You remember President Uhuru's ministers who were targeted by the laws they moved in place. You remember Matiang'i. These ministers cried because even MPs, you pass a law which is going to affect you in the end. And I wish that Kenya Kwanza itself rose up. I am very pleased with my sister Wamujomba in Kiambu, who is standing very firm and saying, I'm a Kenya Kwanza, I'm a UDA MP. But this affordable housing thing is not making sense to me. It is just land grabbing, and that is what it is. If it was anything else, they should have started by building infrastructure for housing. You don't have proper sewer system. You don't have proper energy system. You don't have proper road system, but you're building vertical slums.
Okay.
It is just land grabbing. And I wish that the president would be stopped in the track on the matters judiciary, because this is the most, neutral arbiter. And the successive chief justices, 3 of them, Mutunga, Maraga, and now Kome have shown that the judiciary can be independent. But if the judiciary is going to be contained by the executive, and you're going to go to the days of Chunga and Gicheru, I think you're going to have a big problem.
Corruption is a very clear allegation. It is a very direct one. And the president enjoys a lot of information from both the National Intelligence Service, National Security Council, and other arms, meaning that if at all he is convinced that there is indeed corruption within the judiciary, he has access to a lot of this evidence. The best way anyone would imagine, instead of an assault generally on the judiciary, would be to prosecute this matter through the JSC, present the evidence before the Judicial Service Commission, in which even his own appointees, like the AG, sit in. Don't you think that that is the best route, and the president is doing this country a disservice by not using that route?
Thank you, friend. Number one, we need to agree, and this we learned as early as class 5. There are 3 arms of the government: judiciary, executive, legislature, and they are supposed to shake one another. I think we need to put into proper perspective what the president is saying, because unlike what my brother Robert here wants to say, the president is fighting for the common wananchi. Look, friend, in our manifesto as a party, it talks about the affordable housing, the issue of universal health. And let Robert not come here to tell us about housing. Even in their ODM, if he doesn't know, and he should go and lead. It's just like word for word in both ODM and UDA in regard to housing. So that one
answered my question, because
I'm coming there. Now, the biggest problem the president and all of us in UDA and Kenya Kwanza have with our courts. Number one, the judges, they have, mortgages, right? Yet they are going there making rules that deny Kenyans proper housing as is in the intention of the government. Number two, on the issue of health, and which we went around campaigning and promising people. The president and our party and our government have said, we want, for example, the people who are down there and the people who are in slums and other areas, we want their health coverage reduced from 500 to 300, and those who cannot afford, it's fine. Then, when disease, for example, we are facing serious ravaging from cancer, and the president is saying, and all of us know, treating cancer is such a challenge in this country. Let me finish, friend. Let me finish, friend.
It is a route of addressing the dispute between the judiciary and the executive.
And that is where I'm taking
the JSC route.
No, look.
And there's a route that is now being talked about.
You cannot go to JSC.
They need to have dialogue. A Ruto-Raila clash of a judiciary is called for dialogue. Now, between going to JSC and prosecuting corrupt judges, presenting evidence before the Judicial Service Commission,
you should have,
as opposed to sitting down between the leaders of 2 arms of government to discuss this matter. Don't you think?
Allow me to finish that, because it forms the basis of the so-called squabble. Friend, people are holding halabis all over to take their sick to hospital and such things. So, our government is saying, our president is saying, we want a system whereby when someone, for example, if it's a cancer patient, and they are down there in the villages, at that small amount they pay of 300, they get treatment. The government takes care of everyone. From the money we shall be paying for this health insurance. Now, some people, imagine Now some people who benefit from the current setup of the NHIF, they rush to the courts, they negotiate through the back door, right?
That is a problem that,
exactly.
that we want to address.
Exactly. And now the president cannot just, you cannot tell me, friend, that the president just goes quietly, talks to JSC. This has to be called out. And you see the complaints that were coming from the government. Some guys came up yesterday and they said the same judge, and I have nothing against her, I don't even know her, but the same judge the deputy president has been complaining about.
In that instance, they've gone and raised this issue with the JSC. My question is this, and I have nothing against the government plans, whether on health or housing levy, and that is not what we are trying to examine here.
Yes.
The president's plans, no. Mm-hmm. It is a dispute between the judiciary and the executive.
Yeah.
The president says there is corruption within the judiciary.
And we know that.
Meaning that there are suspected members of the judicial service who are engaging in corruption. He has the evidence. Between taking this evidence to the JSC and sitting down with the CJ, which will resolve the issue?
He will do both.
You know, it should be a multi-pronged approach. No one method will cure this issue, because in the mood you have to be, we have to be realistic. That the reason why the president is making all this noise is because his projects are being halted, and he's against timelines to deliver to the people of Kenya. We said we want to change the economic fortunes of the people of this country. And one of the things that is hedged on that economic transformation is the housing agenda. Right now, there are so many young kids who are working in those housing projects. And now somebody goes to court and says, we halt it until further notice. What will happen to those young men and women, to those contractors who have already been given tenders to do the construction of those houses?
Are we saying?
And I'm saying,
because corruption is a crime.
Yes.
Are we saying that if they are told there's any criminal culpability on the part of judicial officers, that this can be resolved by the president and the CJ having dialogue?
I started by saying that we have independent arms of the government, but they are interdependent. There is no law in this country that says that the legislature cannot talk to the executive, nor the executive talking to the judiciary. That doesn't mean that they have their way. It's just a candid conversation, like the candid conversation we are having here. And I'm saying also, the JSC met the other day. If there was any ill motive, the Attorney General would not have been there. He was a part of that meeting. Whatever was resolved in that meeting, the press conference that was done on that particular day, the AG was there. So it means that they can approach this issue in two ways. The president can talk to Mother Koome, there is nothing wrong with that. And they can also take the JSC route with the evidence that they have against those corrupt judges. The deputy president himself said on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. he is submitting a petition to Mother Koome.
On a personal complaint, nothing to do with government. But
no, about corruption. About corruption.
It is a necessity of having dialogue over a possible criminal offense. How do we sit down to discuss corruption?
You have to get my point. The deputy president himself, the second in command in this country, said on matters on judicial corruption, he will submit a petition to the Chief Justice tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm saying this is we have to solve this issue in a multi-pronged. We have to a multi-pronged approach towards resolving this matter. The president cannot just keep quiet.
Is this dialogue between the president and the CJ necessary?
I don't think that is necessary, and especially the way it has been called out, because I think the president and the whole. You've seen the president, I think the top 5 most powerful people in the executive, the president, the deputy president, the majority leader, all the budget chairman, you've seen everybody going for the, the neck of the judiciary leads. And I don't think that is very fair to the judiciary. It is very unfair to the judges who are being called out without any due process. I think even if we have a matter against any judge or institution of judiciary, it is not good the way it is being handled. And, one underlying thing which I have told you and I repeat, and I think that Kenyans need to look at it that way, is that these people are just incompetent. And the president is just looking for ways of being an imperial president. But remember, remember Kenyans went and demanded for the change of the constitution because of the thought that the imperial president was hurting them. And this thing is going to repeat itself. The moment we have denied parliament, now parliament is very useless. You saw for the first time the MPs were almost demonstrating because of CDF. They cannot do it on the plenary. They can almost do nothing. So now they are almost demonstrating for them. And now,
I think that, for example, the president should blame Parliament more for their failure to ensure that some of these legal hurdles he's facing with these policies.
Yes.
That those things should have been checked by the Houses of Parliament. But because they have ceded ground, they failed to do their job and simply rubber stamped even mistakes, obvious glaring mistakes that were picked out by the judiciary.
I think that President Ruto learned one thing, that, if he was to appoint the people who are to serve in his cabinet or in its leadership position, he needed to have chosen the dirtiest, so that he holds a card against them at every point. And this has made sure that all the leaders of the institutions, including the cabinet secretaries, cannot stand up to the president. None of them can wake up and say that we are going to tell our boss that this thing is going to hurt the country. None of them. The second thing he did was to ensure that he intimidated all political leaders and brought them to his side. You saw the UDM and Bunch went and moved and became part of Kenya Kwanza against the law.
Including your own people. Including your own people.
It is good to have that kind of control over the Houses of Parliament, politically speaking.
Yes.
But that kind of control should also improve the quality of some of the legislation,
yes,
some of the policies. This kind of majority should help the president to ensure that whatever he comes up with actually doesn't just pass with the glaring legal issues that could be pointed out in future. Do you think that Parliament, by ceding too much ground to the president, is failing the president?
There is no ground that Parliament is ceding. And Arai doesn't write truth. The fact is, it is the president who called out the opposition. When they were pushing for a handshake, he told them off and he told them, we want you to audit our government. We want you to hold us responsible. Remain in the opposition, there is no handshake. So I cannot tell you that. The issue is this, friend, and this is where the problem is stemming from. I don't believe Parliament has ceded ground. The world over, any government wants enough numbers in the national or in the legislature so that they can be able to pass the people-friendly policies they'll be taking there. Now, what has been happening to our Parliament, again, takes us back to the judiciary, because you see, for example, this issue of the finance bill. It requires, people go to the public participation, etc. And again, someone needs to tell you, Fred, what we have as, in our finance bill, the same people, the Kenya, the Azimio, they had almost exactly the same projection in their manifesto.
If they fail to do public participation, that would still be challenged in court.
No, what I mean is, it is not public participation that was taken to court. It is the finance bill itself. And friend, what the problem we have is that there seems to be a cartel, or an organization that is going behind the backs of everyone and using the courts to get favorable judgments against this government, to get favorable judgments to them that delay the government, operations. And what we are saying is this, friend. Even the Chief Justice said, fine, we are part, all of us are part of the government. We want to sit down, not to discuss the content of the criminal cases before the courts, but to discuss, and it is provided even in the rule, how the three arms of government should relate, because you remember they are independent. Okay. But now you see the judiciary wants even to interfere with the independence of the parliament. These are the people's representatives. And so, in fact, what I want to inform my brother Robert here, the talks will take place. And it's not talks to discuss, these are not talks to address particular cases. These are talks to determine or to address...
To contain the judiciary.
No, how the three arms of government will be relating.
It would be unfair for me to let you go without discussing an issue to do with the counties today. Yes. And there's one headline that features on the front page of the Star this morning. Matters to do with counties. It is on the left-hand side. Ruto team and governors clash over 272 billion shillings. And I'm going through this, and it has to do with the technical committee has identified several devolved functions that are still being performed by the national government. And this is ahead of a very special meeting next week between the governors and the national government. The intergovernmental IGTRC, Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, which has identified several devolved functions that are still being performed by the national government. I know there was a row last week about matters education, and the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms has already proposed that matters to do with ECD be returned to the national government. There's a dispute on that, and even governors had already said that because of that, they would boycott this IRTC, Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee meeting next week. But on this issue of devolving functions, this is a matter that should have been resolved basically because everything has been laid out in our constitution. Do you think that, and I know here there's still that Kenya Kwanza and Azimio feeling, but when it comes to counties, and you are the defenders of devolution, what is your assessment of this disagreement between the national government and the devolved units?
First, Bwana Indimudi, the matter that you touched on ECD, we had a very fruitful day on Sunday with our governor, Irungu Kang'ata, where we were issuing bursaries to the kids who had excelled in their class 8 exam. And we were issuing them with bursaries. And one of the guests in that occasion was the CS for education. And the CS was categorical that the ECDE function would stay with the county because that is the edict of the Constitution. That is what the Constitution says. I know we have not fully implemented our Constitution, even in matters health, and the most recent fight between the counties and the national government was on the fuel levy, because one of the functions that we have as county governments is to look at the rural roads, and there is no kitty for that. The members of parliament get around, every member of parliament gets around 66 million to do roads in their constituencies. And the argument is that some of this money should be coming to the counties, because roads is also a function of the county. And most of these levies, actually, if you look at the pyramid of how taxes are paid, they emanate from the grassroots. So there is a very varied conversation on the governors, by the governors, on getting that money so that we can improve the road networks. Because the members of the county assemblies are more in tune with what is happening on the ground, than the members of parliament, because they have larger areas and they might not be able to reach each and every part of their constituencies. So I believe that there is a big space in how devolution is being handled in this country. I don't think that we have gotten it right completely.
Do you feel the national government is too slow in actually ensuring that all these functions?
I believe it's a battle of resources, because on healthcare right now, most of our scans were not working countrywide, because we have this leasing program by the national government, and they had not paid the vendor, and the vendor, I think, shut them down. So you could not get an X-ray or a scan in a government hospital. So there is no independence there, because I think the county government they are governments in themselves. And I think that is one of the misnomers that we have, yeah? Because if you look at the system that we borrowed this system from the United States. I have the benefit of being there for some time, and I know how it works. And the issue of correction of taxes, the national government at source should cede some of this money to the counties. That way, we don't seem like we are begging from them, because right now, the last disbursement I think we got was, in my county, was November's. So we are in January, so we are 3 months behind. And by the time we get to the close of the year, we'll probably have 2 or 3 disbursements that are not fronted. So how do you expect the counties to perform their functions? So the bigger discussion should be, why don't you allow counties more leverage in collection of taxes?
Okay.
That way, the only discussion we will have is about those counties that cannot be able to collect enough, and then what we call what share? There is a share that
equitable
is
share.
Not the equitable. There is another share that is given to counties that don't generate enough revenue.
Okay.
Then we can have that discussion. But
Equalization fund.
Equalization fund.
Okay.
But let us have a framework where, the government is correcting taxes from rents, rentals and what have you. I think it's 10% of what you get. Let us seed it from source so that we be a government.
So the issue is purely about resource allocation. Therefore, it's not even that counties feel that they are better placed to run issues like ECD. It's just that they want money directed to the counties for that function so that they can control it. Whether or not there's any value to be gained by having ECD separated from the rest of education functions like secondary education, primary education, and university. It's just about the money? Bonalai.
No, I don't believe that it's just the money. I think that my colleagues here are packaging it differently. But in Nairobi, we see it like some of these functions should have been brought to the counties way much earlier. The issues like the issues of roads, the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, the money allocated to that institution, plus the money allocated to the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, should have been given to the counties. I think Kenya only should have remained with the national government. The issues of health, you've seen the Ministry of Health is trying to take up more roles, while health is devolved. So a lot of money is still remaining with the central government. The IGRTC has, listed 23 functions which they think that are devolved, but still being held by the national government. Even the issues of housing, some of these things, some of these houses and houses were being built, the affordable housing was being built to regulate rents in cities and in towns. But now you see the national government is going full throttle and saying that this is their pet project and this is the only project which must succeed, others can fail. And the issues of health, you've seen the primary health care. Kenya Kwanza is making it look like it's only NHIF, but primary health care involves a lot. Is from sanitation. The way what primary health care is just preventing people from getting sick. So how do we prevent people from getting sick? We should ensure that we live in very clean environment, organized environment, things are working well. Then when people get sick, we ensure that some of these illnesses we can handle before people get to hospitals, things like malaria. So I believe that Kenya Kwanza has a lot of resources. They should channel to the counties and ensure that those functions, even the ECDs, why do they want the ECD functions? Why do they want it to the Ministry of, I believe...
Why would counties, what value is there for counties to run ECD?
But counties have been delivering, the only thing which has been missing there is that ECD was separated from primary, which should not happen. So you find that even in many instances, when the counties were still, because the counties are just 10 years old, the counties were still building the infrastructure for the ECD for themselves, because some places didn't have ECD. ECD was connected to the primary schools. So when the counties, you give a county to, like in Kilaresha Primary School, where the counties need to run the ECD, but the ECD is deeply connected to the primary school, the counties were lost. We don't have the infrastructure, and the money was not even channeled, because the money was remaining with the national government, but the function was devolved. So the counties were using money meant for other things to build the ECD. But if you check in this regard, I think the counties have performed better than the national government, even with the resources remaining with the national government.
One of the biggest elements that they talk about is the agriculture function, where 41 elements are still being performed by the state in agriculture. And the functions are worth about 105 billion shillings. Agriculture is huge, but it's also key to the GDP of this country. That may well be seen as, yes, fine, agriculture should be devolved probably because counties run this function better. But when it comes to education, this debate about the ECD probably is misplaced, and counties are just keen on the money and nothing else.
Okay, well, friend, and I think today you are a bit tough on the government. I don't know whether I came with this fighting spirit because you are normally very good this week.
We're talking about county governments here.
It's all right.
Yes.
And allow me before I even answer the question, because now we are discussing counties, and I'm a representative of MCAs in my party. Allow me to, in the strongest terms possible, condemn an incident that happened in Kakamega over the weekend, where a member of parliament publicly slapped an MCA for no reason at all. That's very, very, very bad. Honorable Peter Walunya Idimuli, I don't know whether you are related, didn't deserve the kind of treatment. And this is not about a fight. At all. Yeah, and this is not about a fight between MCs and MPs. I mean, I have over 100 MPs who are my personal friends. This is log behavior. From someone who was even recently threatening to harm a magistrate. We don't take this, very easily. Another MCA died in that area under almost similar circumstances in broad daylight. So we condemn that in the strongest terms possible. And, metaphorically speaking, I want to tell some people of that ilk to keep their dirty hands off our MCAs. Now, when we come to this issue you are discussing here, friend, there is no way you can sever, the functions of the counties and the functions of the national, government. There are still those areas where the two levels of government, have to keep, consorting or mingling the way they handle their activities. And for example, in our party and in our government, in our side, the president has been very categorical. All leaders, from himself all the way to the MCs, they are no, residents or citizens who belong to the national government and the others belong to county governments. It is just these functions that differ. Now, or the roles that differ. Now, you see on matters like education, like health, like agriculture, they are shared between the two levels of government. So what needs to be done is for collaborative approach, actually, which is what our government has been calling for. We have collaborative approach to issues between the national government and the county governments. And for example, with me, I'm very happy with the governor because he has been able, even as we fight for Watford as MCEs, our governor have been able to provide for an equivalent of the Watford to the Nyeri MCAs, both in the previous administration and in this one. And, you know, friend, for example, like in the matter of ECD, you know, we just don't to pluck it off the counties because, you see, the issue is the county government have already made a lot of investment towards that line. Already some funds, for example, in my area, in my ward, I've committed some funds, you know, the ones we receive from the county government. You know, we prioritize projects. There are already some projects that have prioritized that have to do with these ECDs. Okay. So you don't just wake up and do things in a knee-jerk, you know, reaction, you know, without properly thinking about them. And I think that is where the bone of contention is. So let's allow the county governments first to handle what they are handling because they have already committed funds, public funds towards that. And if you just withdraw, you know, those functions from the county government, you end up, you know, wasting public resources.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up this discussion, I want us to look at the cartoon on page 12 of the Standard. That will be our last discussion. It will also form your comments. It is an issue that has generated a lot of political heat, especially in the Mount Kenya region. And if my director can help me with this by beaming this cartoon on the screen, matters to do with succession in Mount Kenya. And this one has come from Muranga. So we'll start with that members of parliament from Muranga feel that it is time to have someone else in that position of deputy president or running mate to President William Ruto when he seeks re-election come 2027. The deputy president has come out and said that this is disrespectful and rude to the current administration and that this should wait until probably the second term of the president. I just want to hear, without me giving my own opinion on the matter, Wanakibaya, what is your assessment of what is happening with the succession politics?
In my personal opinion, this is an initial discussion. It happened in my ward, actually, on Saturday, where we are having a function, and then there was a press conference that was done, and that issue was introduced. It caught me by surprise because even the venue and the way it came out, I don't think on such a substantive matter that was the right venue. I am from Muranga, and I wish to see one of my people become president. But I believe that this issue is ill-timed. It's not helpful. We have a substantive deputy president. We don't have the energies to unpack the duo in 2027, let alone thinking about competitions for 2032. I believe we are politicians and we have ambitions, but I also believe that you have to begin to end. There is no two issues about it. Uh-huh. You have to walk the walk, you have to travel the journey. And I don't fault those who are introducing, who are raising their opinions, but I think they are ill-timed. I think that they are bringing disharmony in the governance of the Kenya Kwanza government. And historically, you see there was this election that was done in 1992, and it pitted one of the strongest opposition candidates we have ever had in Murang'a, and one of the astute leaders of our region called Kenneth Matiba. And Mwai Kibaki was also in that contestation. And because they split votes, we lost the elections. We believed Matiba was the right person for that time. Now, Murang'a people have to be very careful not to repeat the same mistake. I know there is a mention of a certain candidate, but there are so many other able people that can be president in Murang'a. And this devolution has provided us a yardstick to kind of analyze and see who can be president. We are one year from the elections. Those candidates who are being mentioned have been in their positions for 1 year, so they haven't even done anything tangible in the responsibilities that they have been given. So I would ask, as a politician in that region, I would ask us to mute that discussion for now. Kenyans are braving a lot of they are handling so many issues to do with economic issues, and I believe our biggest responsibility for now is to concentrate on development. And I'm very glad that in Murang'a, our governor, whom we love very much, I heard somebody saying that the MCAs who are singing Kumbaya with the governors should be not be the elected in the next election. But I also believe that if somebody is doing a good job, we should say it.
Okay.
And our governor, is doing a very good job, and he is only concerned about development in Murang'a.
Do you feel that that ticket, the presidential ticket, should change come 2027 when President Ruto seeks re-election? Should he change?
We have a substantive deputy president.
It should stay the same.
We have a substantive deputy president.
Okay. Bonalai, I'm sure this issue excites
It doesn't excite me because I believe Kenya Kwanza are trying to waste our time with issues of no consequence, of no importance to us. And it just worries me that, you know, at some point they were saying that it's only the opposition or Azimio which is interested in campaigning all the time. And they say that they are now working. But, you know, one end you hear the deputy president saying that they have 10 years. They have 9 more years to deliver on their mandate. I don't know who gave them the 9 years. And on the other hand, you see a young person like Ndindi Nyoro who has never spoken anything to fight for the people of Mount Kenya. He's now coming out and saying that he wants to replace his father while the father is still alive. You know, it is very dangerous. And I think these are all distractions. These people in Dimuli, whatever will speak here, will not make sense. These people are just incompetent. I've never seen this. You can differ with the government, but what we are seeing here
An incompetent government, and the unga now is 130 shillings.
No.
They are telling us we have superiors on the head.
Yeah.
You're done?
An incompetent
Yes.
government. and the fuel is
the
going-
whole debate about Kiambu, Murang'a, and Nyeri, you come from Nyeri.
Yes.
And they say you've already had a president,
Yeah.
and now a deputy president. Your time is done.
That's immaterial. You know, friend, we have a president, we have a deputy president, we have a cabinet, we have our leaders in the National Assembly, and we are just 1 year old. And you know, there was a saying that came right back from President Uhuru's time. You know, President Uhuru used to say, yangu kumi, ya ndugu yangu William kumi. And going by that statement, William still have 9 more years to go. And you see, the world over, there is nowhere And even my brother Robert is here, although he just wants to throw spanners in the works in regard to this government. And my brother Kifaya is here. And you are here, friend. There is nowhere in the whole world where they have ever changed a winning ticket. So it would be in very, very bad faith for people to start saying that the winning Kenya Kwanza ticket should be changed midway. No, it doesn't happen. And let us avoid wasting our time. Let's avoid wasting government's time with unnecessary debate. Our president is very competent. Our deputy president is very competent. Our chair budget in the National Assembly is very competent. And all these leaders, plus ourselves, we need to focus on supporting our president and the deputy president and our assembly leaders to deliver to the people of this country. So that debate is neither here nor there. It should not, we should not waste our time on that. Okay. President William Ruto is firmly in control. The deputy is there assisting the president to deliver. Okay. Our cabinet, unlike what my brother Robert is saying here, is fully competent and will do wonders in this country. Our leaders in the National Assembly, our leaders in the county assemblies, even our governors, we are focused. We are supporting our president to deliver for the people of this country. Okay. So, we don't want such time-wasting debates.
Thank you so much, Kiruga Duku. MCA Shinga Ward is also the chair of the UDA MCA's caucus. Robert Alai, MCA Kilelesho Ward, and John Kibaya Ngugi, MCA Gatanga Ward, also the chair of the Finance and Economic Planning Committee in that assembly. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
If you allow me, I must report.
Probably 10 seconds because our time is up.
I must report as the chair of finance in Murang'a County. We are the only county that has doubled its revenue collection. Okay. So we're in a good space.
A commendable feat.
And Nyeri doesn't have any outstanding pay bills.
Okay.
It is good to outline that because a lot of people have been suffering because
anything
of this.
Positive about the Nairobi Assembly?
I play my oversight role, and a lot of things, good things are happening. When you see MCAs starting to praise the governor, be very careful.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
I can oppose it and he's
this morning. Gentlemen, let me go straight to the editorial comment as we come to the end of this session. Now, in recent weeks, Kenyans have been forced to bear witness to a disheartening spectacle, a parade of elected national leaders descending into a pit of bad manners, violence, and an alarming lack of restraint in public, from Kisii, Bungoma, Kiambu to Kakamega, and beyond. The political landscape has transformed into a state of public tantrums, verbal tirades, and outright physical assaults. These scenes unfolding mostly at funerals and other public events are not only embarrassing for a nation that once held its leaders to a higher standard, but they also cast a dark shadow over the very essence of democracy. It is sad, and this is a very sad commentary on the quality of leaders that Kenyans have voted into power. While politics has always been a realm known for its lack of scruples, the recent descent into a marsh of senseless behavior begs a question. When did the level of nonsense stoop so low? Must leaders resort to such public displays of absurdity? Do the citizens they purport to serve deserve to witness the erosion of political decorum? It is even more disturbing that in many instances, these leaders opt for the somber setting of funerals to display their bad manners. Families mourning the loss of loved ones are relegated to the sidelines, their pain and sorrow overshadowed by the shameless competition for political